Very warm welcome to the first discussion at the World.
We have a very exciting panel today with different type of leaders.
A session on investing in
Africa. It's young people.
We have one of the most exciting panels here.
the AI panel.
It is my great honor to welcome you to the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in 2025.
The cooperative world order we imagined 25 years ago has not turned into reality. Instead, we have entered a new era of harsh geostrategic competition.
America is back and open for business. Under the Trump administration, there will be no better place on earth to create jobs, build factories, or grow a company than right here in the good old USA.
If we have tit-for-tat retaliation, we're going to see double-digit global GDP losses.
This is the time of new technologies that we are all embracing, and that has the potential to raise productivity in the world.
My guess is that we can make 100 years of progress in areas like biology in 5 or 10 years if we really get this AI stuff right.
We are on a path where we're going to build machines that are more than tools, that have their own agency and their own goals. Do you understand the consequences?
A third of the planet is still not connected, so they don't have access to the magic that we're talking about here today.
At the end of the day, the technology will only be effective if it's trusted and it's adopted, and you can then create new opportunities for your people.
The defining challenge of our time is going to be the reskilling and upskilling of millions of people.
We need to be preparing kids for the world that they are inheriting. We need to change schools, not change kids.
Inequality in the last year has seen an enormous explosion.
Wealth should be shared, not concentrated in the hands of few people.
The question is not simply how much growth do we want, but also what type of growth.
Companies need to step up. And when they don't, governments need to step in.
Where you are born should not determine whether you live or die.
2024 is the first year we touch 1.5 degrees Celsius. We see the massive fires and suffering and floods and droughts, but it will with 100% certainty get worse before it potentially gets better.
Climate change is not a crisis. The crisis is our failure to use our collective intelligence to make the right choices.
I don't think people talk enough about the opportunity of decarbonization.
We now have 3 million more clean energy jobs than fossil energy jobs.
I know for sure that this is not only an energy transition, it has to be a beginning of a new era.
By embracing constructive optimism, we can shape the intelligent age as an era where every human being can realize its full potential.
It's going to require curiosity. It's going to require thinking outside the box, to engage, to explain, to push forward, forward, forward.
As long as we are not losing our humanity, there's still hope.
This morning, this sweeping, unprecedented order that puts a pause to all federal grants and loans at 5 p.m. today. This could be trillions of dollars in funding that impacts programs and people in the United States and around the world, things like disaster aid, aid for medical charities, food assistance programs. This all came in a 2-page memo that kind of lacks clarity on exactly how this should be implemented. It has also sparked new debates about constitutionality. A lot of questions here. Let's get right to the White House for CNN's Elena Train, who I know has been digging on this. Elena.
That's right. This is really the latest stunning use of power from President Donald Trump's White House just 8 days now into his new administration. And look, this internal memo that was circulated by the White House Office of Management and Budget says that all federal grants and loans will be halted starting at 5 p.m. today, potentially impacting trillions of dollars in spending, and also potentially impacting millions of Americans who rely on this type of funding. Now, I said, This is expected to take effect at 5 p.m. today. That means a lot of these organizations were given less than 24 hours notice of this change, and they have until February 10th to submit reports to the budget office at the White House, and from there, seeking clarity on how this will move forward. Now, one thing that is clear is that the freeze on this is something that the budget office is saying is for organizations that don't necessarily align with Donald Trump's views. I want to read for you what Matthew Vaith, the acting director of the Office of Management and Budget, said in an internal memo. He said, quote, "The use of federal resources to advance Marxist equity, transgenderism, and Green New Deal social engineering policies is a waste of taxpayer dollars that does not improve the day-to-day lives of those we serve." Now, to be clear, John, this memo does specify that Social Security and Medicare benefits are not going to be affected by this freeze. Also, individuals who receive these different loans directly will not be impacted. However, hundreds of different federal payouts are now in jeopardy, all from, charities to different research bodies, universities, community projects. All of those could be impacted by this move. Now, we've heard a lot of top Democrats sounding the alarm on this. We heard just this morning from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat. This is what he had to say. He posted on X, quote, "The U.S. Constitution does not grant the president this unilateral authority. In Illinois, we will stand against unlawful actions that would harm millions of working families, children, and seniors." Now, we also heard from people on Capitol Hill who are arguing, again, that Donald Trump might not have the authority to do this. This is what Senator Chuck Schumer said in a statement last night. He said, quote, "Congress approved these investments and they are not optional. They are the law." So a lot of questions, as you can tell, about whether or not this is something the White House is actually able to do. Now, some experts have said that the president does have the authority, at least temporarily, to put a pause on this type of funding. But again, we really do have to see the details of this because the scope and scale of this directive is so broad and impacts so many different people that there's going to be a lot of questions on this. Now, we do plan to hear from Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, later today at 1 p.m. I expect she's going to get a lot of questions on this, John.
Her first, I think, White House press conference, and I do expect this will be a major topic there. Elena Trian, great to have you on with us this morning. Thank you very much. With us now, his defense attorney and former federal prosecutor Shan Wu. And you heard Elena talk about the legal questions here that stem from, say, the Constitution, which I think everyone knows puts the power to tax and spend in the hands of Congress. It's the spending clause that Congress shall have the power to lay taxes and collect them, duties, imposts, excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. That is typically been meant to mean that Congress spends, right?
Right. And not only is there a constitutional issue, but there's also a law that was meant to address this, which does address it, the Impoundment Act. And this, on its face, clearly violates that. I mean, the 45 days that was just mentioned within the Impoundment Act allows for some temporary pauses, but the emphasis is on the transparency being required to Congress, that the executive branch would have to set forth the exact reasons. And, the reasons they gave in this memo is just a bunch of campaign slogans like, Marxist, anti-Marxist things, anti-trans issues. And it's very flimsy. I mean, on its face, I think what's interesting, John, is it sounds like it's kind of more, meat to the base. But underneath that is really this enormous expansion, continued expansion of the unitary executive theory, giving the president as much power as possible. So it's definitely headed for the courts.
A huge potential expansion of power here. And I'm glad you brought up the Impoundment Act of 1974, because we can look at that, the Impoundment Control Act, we can look at that one of two ways here, whether or not it inhibits the president, whether or not it's constitutional. But one thing is clear is that Donald Trump knows it exists. He knows there are limitations on what presidents can do in terms of not spending. Listen to this. He put out a video, like a year and a half ago on this.
Thomas Jefferson famously used this power, as did many other presidents, until it was wrongfully curtailed by the Impoundment Control Act of 1974. Not a very good act.
Now, again, in this, it's clear he doesn't like the act, but I imagine in a courtroom, one could say he knows it's there.
Oh, that's absolutely right. Again, the Trump administration, in my view, likes the legalities of much earlier times. So he's going back to Jefferson. And, that was enacted during President Nixon's period. And, some people have opined that Nixon only signed it because he was too enmeshed in the Watergate scandal to really be able to object to it. But certainly in the court, they're going to say that he's violating that. And unquestionably, what the Trump folks are going to argue is that the act itself is unconstitutional. So that will head directly to the Supreme Court. And despite the extreme conservative majority right now, this is a pretty questionable one because it's a classic separation of powers issue.
It's a classic separation of powers. When Congress decides to do something, particularly if you look at this memo, which the White House put out, it's not saying we want to spend the money on this cause that Congress voted on in a different way or a certain way. It says that we just don't like what Congress decided to do. So that's going against an actual law passed by a majority in Congress and signed by a president, correct?
No, that's exactly right. And that's why under the act processes, they would need to be far more specific than this general idea of, we just think that generally everything's heading the wrong direction, so we're not giving out any money until we approve it, make sure it goes through our filters. But you can't do that. I mean, this is money that's already been appropriated, and the damage is enormous. I mean, even this issue about not going to individuals is fuzzy because while they're exempting that on its face, there's money that is federal money goes to state agencies to distribute to individuals. So it's very easy to see how it really wipes out a lot of benefits for individuals too.
Again, possible that he does have some authority to do it temporarily. Whether or not he intends this to be temporary, we will see. How far it goes from here also to be determined. Shan-Woo, thank you so much for explaining it so
The Department of Homeland Security says more than 7,000 criminal migrants have now been arrested in President Trump's first week of office. As Rebecca Castor reports, the focus now turns to another major city.
In New York City, a massive federal operation is underway to get criminal illegal migrants off the streets as part of President Trump's nationwide crackdown.
We're tracking down the illegal alien criminals. We're detaining them, and we are throwing them the hell out of our country. We have no apologies, and we're moving forward very fast.
Leading the charge Tuesday is newly confirmed Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. She posted this video on X of ICE agents arresting a man who they say is a violent criminal with kidnapping and assault charges.
Right now, we're concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. Anybody in the country illegally, they're on the table, but we're going to go after them in a prioritization that makes sense. The worst first.
Meanwhile, at the southern border, illegal crossings have plummeted, with multiple sources telling Fox News Border Patrol recorded less than 600 illegal crossings on Sunday. At the height of the border crisis in 2023, daily crossings were over 5,000.
It's the difference between night and day. I don't remember a day, in my 26-year career as a Border Patrol agent that we had that few apprehensions.
The ramped up enforcement making life more difficult for the cartels. Several Border Patrol agents were shot at in South Texas on Monday, with the cartel members seeking refuge on an island between the U.S. and Mexico. Fortunately, none of those Texas Border Patrol agents were injured. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox 32 Chicago.
And welcome back, everyone, here live now from Fox. We do have some breaking news that we want to bring to you from Fox News' Bill Melugin reporting of a situation happening at the border right now. He is reporting per multiple law enforcement sources within the last hour, Border Patrol agents near Fronton, Texas, were fired upon from Mexico by suspected cartel gunmen as a group of illegal aliens were being brought across the river. I'm told that Border Patrol returned fire. Nobody hit on either side right there. And we are going to continue on with this as Texas DPS tells Bill Melugin that they are now patrolling the area and has a drone in the air and can see Mexican military assets now staging on the other side of the river there. So again, we are going to be following this story here for you on Live Now from Fox. It is very fluid at this moment, but this comes at a time when big changes are happening at the White House when it comes to border security, and a lot of these measures are taking place pretty much on a daily basis. We're also seeing mass deportations happening really now every day, as just yesterday, more than 900 people were picked up from major cities, from Boston to Los Angeles as well. And we were bringing that to you, just some of the many arrests that were happening yesterday, including an ISIS member that was accused there of crossing the border illegal as well. So again, some major disturbances though happening on the border. There's gunshots reportedly fired at U.S. Border Patrol agents. They are investigating right now, and we will keep an eye on this developing story for you all right here on Live Now from Fox.
Welcome back. GOP lawmakers meeting in Miami this week, game planning for some of their upcoming legislative fights. But when it comes to DeepSeek, not everyone is in agreement on how to proceed. Emily Wilkins is in Miami with more. Emily, I remember when China was the easiest bipartisan issue around. How times have changed.
I mean, Deidre, this is adding a couple of different things. I mean, it's China, it's AI, and lawmakers, they're really targeting DeepSeek here as a potential national security risk. I mean, given its ties to China, that China hawkishness is still there. But President Trump says the technology could be a positive thing when it comes to overall economics, setting up a potential rift in the GOP of how to handle this. Speaker Mike Johnson, of course, again, has been hawkish on China. Last night, he said that DeepSeek is a serious threat. Listen to what he said on China.
They abuse the system. They steal our intellectual property. They're now trying to get a leg up on us on AI, as you see in the last day or so. It's a serious threat to us and to our economy and our security in every way.
The chair of the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, John Molinar, said in a statement that the U.S. cannot allow the CCP models, such as DeepSeek, to risk our national security and leverage our technology to advance their AI ambitions. He went on to say that we must work to swiftly place stronger export controls on technologies critical to DeepSeek's AI infrastructure. Now, of course, Trump struck a less concerned tone when talking to lawmakers last night, saying that DeepSeek is a wake-up call to U.S. AI companies, but the cheaper model could mean AI will ultimately cost less.
I've been reading about China, and some of the companies in China, one in particular, coming up with a faster method of AI and much less expensive method. And that's good, because you don't have to spend this much money.
Lawmakers that I've spoken with here at Trump National Derail tell me that they're really working to understand exactly what DeepSeek means for national security and if it's going to need to face some of the same scrutiny as they gave TikTok. And of course, we're chatting with lawmakers about this and other issues as they piece together their big agenda for next year.
Right, we got it done, and we're going to get it done again very quickly. Now, I think I do it with an executive order because they didn't go through Congress. I got it approved through Congress, so I think we get it done fast. But it's going to be, that can supply all of Asia with its location. All of Asia can be supplied by Anwar. So there's so many things, but we don't want to have any future president ever sabotage our economy with out-of-control regulations as the last two Democrat presidents have done. They went crazy. Last week, I signed an order revoking Joe Biden's destructive artificial intelligence regulations so that AI companies can once again focus on being the best, not just being the most woke. And today and over the last couple of days, I've been reading about China and some of the companies in China, one in particular, coming up with a faster method of AI and much less expensive method. And that's good, because you don't have to spend this much money. I view that as a positive, as an asset. So I really think if it's fact and if it's true, and nobody really knows if it is, but I view that as a positive because you'll be doing that too. So you won't be spending as much and you'll get the same result, hopefully. The release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser focused on competing to win, because we have the greatest scientists in the world. Even Chinese leadership told me that. They said, you have the most brilliant scientists in the world in Seattle and various places. But Silicon Valley, they said, there's nobody like those people. This is very unusual when you hear a DeepSeek, when you hear somebody come up with something. We always have the ideas. We're always first. So I would say that's a positive. That could be very much a positive development. So instead of spending billions and billions, you'll spend less and you'll come up with, hopefully, the same solution. Under the Trump administration, we're going to unleash our tech companies and we're going to dominate the future like never before. And finally, we need to work together on a defense bill that once again fully rebuilds our military for our great warriors. We have to have a strong...
Now, we rely on Google as our go-to platform for any research that is big or small, but what if we tell you that your search history isn't always private? In fact, some Google searches can land you in some serious legal trouble. Now, Google is the most popular search engine across the globe. It accounts for nearly 89% of the total search engine market share. However, not everything that you search on Google is safe. Your one careless online search can have some real-world consequences. So here are the top 4 things that you should avoid searching on Google. Any search related to bomb-making process is a serious crime, and agencies are constantly monitoring for such activity. Any searches related to weapons or explosives could trigger an investigation as well. Now, child pornography is illegal across the globe. Accessing or even unintentionally encountering such material can have severe legal consequences. The authorities are actively tracking and blocking websites that contain child abuse material, and anyone who's caught searching for such online material will face some pretty harsh penalties. Now, searching for hacking tools like tutorials and software should also be avoided. While ethical hacking is a legitimate profession, illegal hacking is a serious crime, and authorities monitor online activity for signs of hacking or the use of malicious software. Engaging in such activities can have some severe consequences, including imprisonment. Downloading pirated movies? Well, think again. Although the thought of watching a new movie online for free sounds pretty tempting, do avoid it. Downloading or streaming pirated movies is illegal. For instance, in India, piracy can land you in jail for up to 3 years. The online world is a treasure trove of information, but at the same time, it's also a minefield of legal dangers. Remember, the power, of course, lies in your hand, or should we say, in the click of your finger.
I'm giving all praises, honor, and glory to our power, Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shah, Bahasham Bachak, double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect of the tabernacles of David, scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth, wherever you may be. Wherever you may be, Shalom, Yasharallah, Shalom. All right, this is going to be brief. So, and this next clip coming up here, you can see a little damage control. Basically, more lies thrown out on the table. What they're trying to clean up. From the matter of fact, was that in 2024, at the end of 2024, sometime, right? Those last months, I can't remember exactly when it went down, but all those so-called drone sightings and things that were happening, Jersey and all these different areas there. And people were getting worried and scared. They didn't know what the hell was going on. Well, that was the Lord amplifying his power, all right, by showing of the angels, okay? And so now they're trying to come up and clean up and say that, these things were authorized by the government. It was just people flying drones as well. And it was this and it was that. No, it was the angels of the Lord, man. But you don't want the people to attach themselves to that manner of thinking, because that links back to the Bible, which then that will link up to the prophets, because they then can know they can go to the men on the street and find out the truth of the matter. That's the last thing, and I believe we mentioned that, all right, when we went into this, when those things were first going down. The last thing Esau wants is everybody to be flocking towards the men on the streets for answers instead of turning to them, okay? And I'm pretty sure the uptick in those Bible sales probably worried them a little bit. Not too much, because, just because a person picks up the Bible doesn't mean they understand it. Doesn't mean they understand what's going on in it. Doesn't mean they understand, linking those things up, the scriptures with, what's going on currently, right, in real time. So they were probably a little worried, but not that worried, all right? But if people were just, all of a sudden turning to the men of the Lord on the streets, that would be a major, heart dropper, right? That would worry them a lot. And that's the last thing that they want to happen, man. All right, it's for everybody to be looking towards the men of the Lord, looking towards the Bible all the time, looking for the Heavenly Father, and so on and so forth. All right, whether you be Israelites or heathens, all right, they want people to look towards them. Okay, And so they're trying to come up and clean things up. That's why we're not going to get into the subject deep, because there's many chariot scriptures. But we're just going to bring out one straightforward scripture, which we always bring out, which is Psalm 68 and 17. The chariots of the Most High are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them as in Sinai in the holy place. All right. So, all right, the Bible tells you that these so-called spaceships, or as they want to falsely call drones and things, all right, these are actually the vehicles of the Heavenly Father in the Bible. They are called chariots. And who pilot these chariots? Angels. Okay, so together the angels and the chariots are the Lord's army, and the captain of that army is the Lord and Savior Yahweh Shah, and they're going to return with him when he comes back. All right, so it says the chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them as in Sinai in the holy place. All right, and we can also, let me see here, 33. All right, so Deuteronomy 33 and 1 says, and this is let's just jump down and get the point. It says, and he said, Yahweh came from Sinai and rose up from Seir unto them. He shined forth from Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000s of saints. He came with 10,000 of saints because he came with angels of the heavens, which shows you that these are brothers of the heavenly realm, because the Israelites are known as the saints. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you're known as the saints. And it's calling the angels saints because it says he came with 10,000s of saints. We know good and well we were on the earth, all right? So who came from the heavenly realm with the Heavenly Father? It was the angels, all right, in their celestial bodies. It says from his right hand went a fiery law for them. Yea, talking about when he laser beam, those commandments and things of that nature and gave to Moses. Yeah, he loved the people. All his saints are in thy hand. Now, these are different saints. These are actually us, all right? These saints are different saints. We're all brothers or whatnot. But the saints above, we're talking about the angels. And saints down here in verse 3 is talking about you Israelites. See? So it says he loved the people, all his saints are in thy hand. And they sat down, you see, us, we sat down at thy feet. Everyone shall receive thy words. So not the angels that came with them. We sat down to receive the law. But we're saints, they're saints, they are brothers of the heavenly realm, and they are the ones that pilot those vehicles. All right. So Esau is trying to come and clean up. I can't remember who mentioned it. But recently it says, but they said one thing. One of the brothers said one thing, is that Trump didn't mention at the wealth when he popped up on the screen. All right. Was the chariots. He mentioned everything else, right? That was important to all the current issues, but he didn't mention that major event that was going down. People were so scared and so worried about. Oh, they didn't mention the so-called drones, right? And but here you are, in a random news segment trying to do some cleanup. All right, so this Esau just trying to be clever like he usually does, because he wants to drive people away from anything that is associated with the Heavenly Father Yahweh. Okay. And make everything, as he always does, control the narrative, push forward his lies, and, having people believe what he wants them to believe. And if there's any truth that he wants them to believe, trust me, it's going to be on his own time through his own narrative, not through the means of the truth. So, let's go and finish out the news, because that's all I want to speak about real quick. This little cleanup they're trying to do here is basically just them pushing more lies. All right, so Shalom.
And before I turn to questions, I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office. From President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States to start this briefing with some
Google
news.
will change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America on Google Maps after the Trump administration updates its official government sources. The company also said it will start using the name Mount McKinley for the mountain in Alaska currently called Denali. A Google statement on X reading, "We have a long-standing practice of applying name changes when they have been updated in official government sources." The name of the Gulf of Mexico will remain displayed for users in Mexico, while users in other countries will see both names.
They mean us harm, but they basically want to make their country good. Look at what others do. China's a tremendous tariff maker, and India and Brazil and so many countries, and so we're not going to let that happen. That whole thing was wiped out by China mostly, but others. and just wiped out, but it's going to come back. It's going to come roaring back. It's all going to come roaring back. We're going to put tariffs on outside countries and outside people that really mean us harm. They want to, well, they mean us harm, but they basically want to make their country good. Look at what others do. China's a tremendous tariff maker, and India and Brazil and so many countries. And so we're not going to let that happen any longer, because we're going to put America first. Always put America first. That's what's going to happen. We're going to establish a very fair system where money is going to come into our coffers, and America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. Do you know the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had one function: what to do with all the money that we took in. It was so enormous that they had no idea. It was a blue ribbon committee. It was set up 1887, and what to do with all of the money that we had. And again, Teddy Roosevelt was a beneficiary, because when McKinley was killed, he took over this vast sum of money, and he did all of those national parks and all of the other things. And I'm not knocking him, but he was given a vast amount of money, and that was all made through tariffs. We had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right?